Hi, Steve. It's a pleasure to speak to you, and thank you so much for joining us here on Play Red. First of all, are you and your family well back in the United States?
Yeah, thanks for having me. My family's doing well. We can't complain. Our community hasn't been hit very hard. Los Angeles has had obviously some difficulty, but where our community here has been largely unaffected, or in comparison to other communities, so we can't complain. And just wishing for the best resolution to the virus and as many people healthy and happy and resuming everyday life.
Before we get on to your relationship with Real Mallorca, and of course that's one of the many subjects we're going to discuss during this conversation, but there are a few fans who are a bit curious about where the affinity for football comes from a basketball Hall of Famer. But coming from a family with ties in North London and having grown up in Canada, football has always been in the blood, hasn't it? It was sort of your first love as a sport.
Yeah, it was. My parents are from the UK. My mother's Welsh, but grew up in London about half her childhood. My father's from North London. Was a footballer himself. So I grew up in a British household on the west coast of Canada with a football crazy dad, and spent much of my childhood in the backyard with him, kicking the ball around, and loved football as a kid. Played, and I played everything. Growing up in the west coast of Canada, I think it was very common to play all the sports. Back in those days, you played football in the winter, you played baseball and lacrosse in the summer. I also played ice hockey and played all the school sports. So I was constantly playing sports. Football, that was number one in my family. I would say hockey was the biggest sport growing up. And then, when I went to the 8th grade, which was 13 years old, it was right when Michael Jordan had kind of burst onto the scene, and the first Air Jordan shoe. And it was like this electric, charismatic figure who was unbelievable to watch. And it really drew me in. And with my friends as well, we just played basketball every day. And I continued to play the other sports on the side, but slowly basketball became number one. And but I never lost the love for football. I never lost the bug. And in some ways, football still makes me feel like a little kid and who still has a dream of playing professionally one day.
I still have the same dream, Steve. I still have the same. You spoke to a former colleague of yours, James Jupes, who said you just were constantly speaking about football. It was hard to shut you up in the dressing room almost. Transitioning from a highly successful career on the basketball court to a football club's boardroom certainly raised a few eyebrows, especially given it was a two-time the NBA MVP purchasing a stake at a Segunda B club across the Atlantic Ocean. What's the story behind Steve Nash's involvement at Real Mallorca?
Yeah, I mean, I was lucky. Robert Sarver, Andy Kohlberg, largely the ownership group of the Phoenix Suns was exploring opportunities in football. When they went to Spain, they asked me if I would like to be involved, and I thought it was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. So, I became a part of the journey with the Suns ownership group, largely when they started looking at teams in Spain. And for me, it's just been a dream come true, not only to be on the board and be an owner, but more importantly, to experience the country, the Balearic Islands, Palma, Mallorca, everything that small island has, an unlimited amount of experiences, and a beautiful history and people. So really, came in with the idea of experiencing ownership and being on the board of a professional football team. And now I've walked away with just an incredible love, passion, and charm for the island, its people, the history of the club, and trying to make an impact on the island. But it's just been a wonderful experience to be a part of it, to learn, to grow, to understand more about Mallorca, but also about the club and how we can impact the community positively with a quality culture and product on the pitch.
You're also the co-owner of the Vancouver Whitecaps, which is a stone's throw away from where you actually grew up. In America, there's a trend among athletes and celebrities to buy into MLS clubs. We had James Harden with the Houston Dynamo, David Beckham with the newly formed Inter Miami. But you sort of bucked that trend completely and ventured also into purchasing a stake in a European club. What sort of potential could you see in Real Mallorca when you first went to the club? Given, even with it in your head that this is a club on a different continent, in a different language, completely set in a different culture.
Well, there's definitely been challenges with the language and the distance for us to have as big an impact as we'd like to have because we are so far away. But at the same time, we've done our best. We've tried collectively to have an impact, share our experiences. But really, the biggest thing we've tried to do is to listen and learn and to understand. But when we purchased the club, I mean, Spanish football is at the top of the list. The Premier League speaks for itself. With its global television audience and budgets, but as far as football, the game, and the La Liga is in step with any league in the world. So to be a part of a country that produces incredible footballers, has had an unbelievable success with the national team in recent years, but also is a really high profile and quality league up there with the best in the world. It speaks for itself. So. It wasn't a hard sell being Spain, the language, because we know what a great history, tradition, and level the football is there. It's top. So that was exciting. And then the club itself has a great history, over 100 years, and some recent successes in the last 10, 20 years. So there's a lot to build on. There's a beauty and a considerable size and history to the club that needed to be refreshed. Here we are trying and fighting and learning, taking our lumps. We obviously have had an incredible story these 4.5 years, but more than anything, we've learned, and we're trying to grow and trying to put the club in a position to succeed and to succeed in a sustainable way.
It's been quite the progression, honestly. It's been spoken a lot about through Europe and the world, the story we've had since over the last 5 or so years. But moving swiftly on to current matters, and with 102 days separating our last competitive fixture with our first game back following the enforced COVID-19 break, how excited are you for the return of La Liga football? And they don't come much bigger than the hosting of FC Barcelona, do they?
No, this is incredible. I mean, obviously, when you dream of playing Barcelona, you don't dream of playing in an empty stadium. But the reality is, we're just pleased that society is in a position where it feels safe enough to proceed with football and some other of our passions. So for the chance for our players, our club, our fans to match up with the biggest clubs in the world is a difficult start, but an exciting one. And I'm sure our players will have had that little extra impetus and purpose in training every day, knowing that they're facing, an incredible team off the bat. So we'll be put to the fire right away, and hopefully we'll be prepared and ready to match them.
You were, of course, there at the Nou Camp for the corresponding fixture against FC Barcelona. Can you try and put into words what it was like to see a team you had acquired and had been through since the Segunda B on that progression, as we talked about earlier, to then walk out at against one of the most renowned sides in the world in arguably the globe's greatest competition? What was that like?
It's hard to really describe. It's a dream. It's a dream to see your team, the team you're now a part of, that you watch every kick of the ball, that you're trying to make an impact behind the scenes. Now, I don't want to overstate the impact. The people that are there every day doing the work are the ones that deserve the credit, but still to be involved in our own way is an honor, and to be able to play at places like the Camp Nou and against Leo Messi and the rest of the team is obviously an experience that just doesn't come along every day. So it was a surreal night. I thought the players acquitted themselves very well, and it was an exciting game, some terrific goals, and we got a chance to measure ourselves against one of the very, very best.
But that kind of just showed how far it had come since, you've been there on games when we were in Super League, you've been there throughout all that journey. That must have been almost like the moment where you thought this was the right decision. This was
sure. Well, I think that regardless, it's been the right decision because it's been a tremendous experience to learn about the people, the island, the culture and history of Mallorca. But it certainly is, let's call it the cherry on the ice cream to be able to play in stadiums like that against teams like that. And we've seen days in Segunda or Segunda B where we didn't look like scoring if we played for 3 hours. And here we are at the Camp Nou, you score 2 goals, and yes, you get beat, but you show that you have something. You have the bravery and the ability to cause them problems as well. So it was although we lost, it was also a rewarding moment for everyone to measure the club at that level.
It's not just on the pitch where Real Mallorca has made a difference, but off of it too, notably becoming the first club to use its stadium naming rights to assist in the recovery of the local community and the region post-COVID-19. While we look forward to welcoming you to the newly inducted Visit Mallorca Estadi, Steve, what does this sort of gesture say about the club? And does this sort of actions towards the community make you proud to be a part of Real Mallorca?
Sure. It's a wonderful, I think, gesture. Alfonso, who's our CEO, is, I think, trying to be creative and make the most of the opportunities that, we have to search and seek in a time that's so uncertain. And I think for him to make this gesture, I think is important for the club to stand in solidarity with everyone who's going through a difficult time with the virus. So that's what we want our club to be about, as a part of the community, as someone that embraces and supports our local community. So I think it's important, and I think it's the type of values that we want not only to have in our behaviors, but also to show the community that this is what we stand for. We want you to be proud of us, and we want you to believe in us, and to rely on us in certain situations.
And finally, with 11 games remaining and a hectic fixture schedule in front of us, a fight for survival does await. What are your thoughts on the upcoming challenge? What have you made so far this season, and what is your message, perhaps, for fans listening from around the world?
Enjoy it. For the fans, enjoy it. We've spent quite a few years now not playing in La Liga. So though it's a nail-biting finish here, and we'll have to have some special performances to stay in La Liga. The honor and pleasure of being in this category, of overcoming many of the things that we are trying to overcome with the club in recent history, to put ourselves back in a position. We're very fortunate to be where we are. So let's not lose sight of, this beautiful opportunity, win or lose. I think the way Vicente and the players have come together, have trained and performed, has been, near their maximum. So I never watch our games and feel like we're not giving a good effort. I never watch our games and feel like we're disconnected or not on the same page. When I watch our team play, whether we play well or we play poor, the spirit, the togetherness is always there. So to be in that position and have that type of spirit, and manager who has a relationship with his players that can perform like that week in, week out, is a pleasure. And so we should enjoy it, wish them the best, be behind them, try to lift them up as much as we can, and let's see. Sport is sport. Anything's possible, as we've seen in our recent history.
That's very true, Steve. That's very true. Definitely don't count us out. Steve, thank you so much for your time. I can't thank you enough for speaking with us here at Play Red. I'm sure everyone listening greatly appreciates you speaking with us, and it's been very insightful talking to you.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you. Looking forward to the weekend. Vamos!
Hope to have you here on the island soon.
I hope so too. Thank you.